Good morning everyone, my name is Michelle, I hope you're doing well. Welcome to another video. It is Thursday morning, the 30th of October. In this video, we're going back to Nova Scotia to the case of missing siblings 6-year-old Lily and now 5-year-old Jack Sullivan from Lansdowne Station. They were reported missing by their mother, Malaya Brooks-Murray. I also want to give an update on the little boy, 2-year-old from Oregon. If you remember, back in March, I covered his case. Dane Paulsen, he drowned in the Siletz River. Well, there has been a shocking update in that case. And I'm going to tie that in to the search for Lily and Jack as well. And you'll see why in a moment. Let's go. Before we get into the video, can I just ask, if you're not yet subscribed, please do so. I'm trying to get to 100,000 subscribers by the end of this year, and with your help, you know what, there's still a chance that I could do it. If you are subscribed, share the video out. Things you can do that cost absolutely nothing. Tell anyone you know who is interested in true crime or missing persons cases to check out my channel. They might subscribe, they might watch my videos, all completely free. I want that silver play button plaque. Come on, guys. Help me out. Okay, without further ado, just finished watching the DT show from last night. I was part of the replay crew. Here's DT. And this title isn't hyperbolic at all. An update that DT didn't expect. Well, it's something that I didn't expect us to be told about. There's nothing inside the norm about this case, is there? Because Lily and Jack's stepdad, Daniel, is a blabbermouth. He likes to talk. He's his own worst enemy, but as I said recently in videos, it helps us out because we learn stuff about the case that we wouldn't have otherwise known. DT has been talking to Daniel a lot. I think he believes that Daniel is completely innocent. So I believe DT when he says that Daniel, latter end of last week, was interrogated. 2 hours recorded interview. Daniel told DT that it's about the blanket, the possibility of Daniel planting the blanket. He had to go through in detail again the events of Friday, May the 2nd. We know that he's gone through this timeline and the details of the days previous, and then several times we see numerous interviews that have taken place in the court documents, but the court documents only take us up to mid-July. But because Daniel likes to talk and he tells everybody everything, well, Daniel, been called in. We don't know whether the same has happened to Malaya. I would suspect it possibly has. Here's my view. This is just strictly my opinion. Although I didn't expect to hear this, it's not unexpected at all because we're 6 months down the line. I would imagine that the case is now under a review. They've not got anywhere with everything they've tried. Interviews, polygraphs, chasing up almost 1,000 leads. Everything's come to nothing. Cadaver dogs, nothing. The suspicious vehicle in the early morning hours of May 2nd that the neighbours heard. No evidence of a vehicle on surveillance video. Now, bear in mind, this is a very rural area. I don't know where the cameras are. I want to know where the cameras are. If there's any possibility that somebody could have left Daniel's property in the middle of the night and been to-ing and fro-ing without being caught on camera, the only way for us to know that is if we know where the cameras are. So if you're local, please go and check out and see if you can see any cameras in the vicinity. So look for trail cameras, traffic cameras, stuff like that. There's many hours of video footage that they've got, and they also, if you remember back in May, appealed for dashcam footage as well. So there's a reason for that, isn't there? There's a big reason for that, and we know that reason now. It's because on May 9th and May 17th, the two neighbours, Brad Wong and Justin Smith, said that they heard this vehicle to-ing and fro-ing on Gaylord Road. So that's why they wanted dashcam. Despite all of this, 6 months of investigation, there's nothing. They're still no further forward than when they started. So it makes absolute sense at the 6-month mark to start again, to go right the ways back to the beginning and start again. And that's what I think they're doing. I suspect Malaya also was taken in. I would imagine that the cops are now going to maybe tighten the thumbscrews a little bit. So we know that, according to Daniel, telling DT that it was about the blanket, but it wasn't just about the blanket. It's about going through everything again, comparing what you're saying now to what you said then. They're gonna sit down in a room and they're gonna look at the transcripts of what he said before, what he said now, and see where they differ. And they're gonna untangle all of these statements and pick apart some of the holes. Is Daniel a suspect? Absolutely he is. I think he's always been a suspect. Just because he passed a polygraph, well, yeah, they say in the court documents that he's truthful and it's to eliminate people from their inquiries, but that's also not strictly true, is it? No one's cleared. They might say, okay, that person's passed a polygraph, let's move on to the next thing. But it doesn't mean to say that when the case undergoes review, new eyes on the case, they might bring in new team members, there'll be a lot of brainstorming. So Daniel, not out of the woods yet, son. No one is. No one's been cleared. So there's that. This is why I want to talk about little Dane Paulsen, because some news came out from his case, which we thought was all done and dusted. If you remember, it was around 4:25 p.m. on March the 1st. This is a case out of Siletz, Oregon. A 911 call was made by Dane's mother. She couldn't find him. He was playing in the front yard, very rural property, no fence. Why do people not fence in a yard? If they've got a young kid, why don't they fence in, a part of their yard for the kid to play in safely? But no, and this property is backing onto the Siletz River. He was found on March the 11th by a volunteer diver, and he drowned. Really sad, family grieving, but his father's now been charged in connection with his drowning. All right, let's play this news piece here.
The search for the 2-year-old started on March 1st after he went missing from his home in Siletz. According to the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office, Dane was last seen playing in the yard of his home located along the Siletz River. According to the Sheriff's Office, 682 acres and 341 walking miles were searched by both law enforcement and community volunteers. Law enforcement searched 14 miles of the Siletz River by boat, and 22 divers searched a 2-mile stretch of the river. On Tuesday, March 11th, the search for Dane came to a tragic end.
Recovering his body has given his family some closure and answers, but I know the grief and processing of this tragedy is ongoing and will be overwhelmingly difficult.
Juan Heredia with Angels Recovery Dive Team found Dane's body in the river, 3 miles downstream from the family's home and just 1 mile from where the Sheriff's Office divers had searched. The Sheriff's Office took a moment to thank Heredia during a press conference on Thursday.
Juan is the embodiment of the same spirit of service that has humbled us over our 10-day operation. His compassion for others, his willingness to give of himself to our community is what helped bring closure to Dane's family.
During Thursday's press conference, the Sheriff's Office announced that a medical examiner confirmed Dane's cause of death as drowning. No criminal charges have been filed. The Sheriff's Office says the investigation is still ongoing while it reviews the entirety of this case.
They say, investigations are ongoing. But you think, well, kids drowned, it's really sad, but no criminal charges. And you think, well, maybe them saying the investigation's ongoing is just a little bit of lip service for the public. But no. And remember, this is from back in March. His dad has been indicted by a grand jury. On October 16th, a grand jury indicted Dane's father, Aaron Scott Paulsen, with second-degree child neglect for allegedly leaving the toddler unattended in the yard. Dane's mother said she disagrees with the charges. Aaron Paulsen is scheduled to appear in court on November the 3rd. So second-degree child neglect. I thought his mother was looking after him. I'm going to have to go back and go through all the old stuff again, but I thought it was his mother that had left him in the yard. That he was playing in the yard and she left him while she took some food to her dad or her father-in-law in a trailer at the back of the property. That's my recollection of it. But they've indicted the dad. Are those charges going to stick? Don't know. But what it shows to me is that this investigation wasn't closed when they said they were continuing to investigate. They weren't paying lip service. And second-degree child neglect. So this is out of Oregon. Don't know whether the laws in Nova Scotia are similar to those in Oregon, different country. But Malaya and Daniel, they'd left Lilly and Jack unattended, hadn't they? 6-year-old and a 4-year-old, while they were sleeping, in a situation where they could get out of the house, where they could get out of the yard, and they admitted they knew, or at least Malaya admitted that she knew, that the kids like to wander. So, if Aaron Paulsen can be charged with child neglect for leaving Dane in the yard, why can Daniel and Malaya not be charged with child neglect for allowing Lilly and Jack to get out of the house and out of the yard while they were sleeping? It's an open question, and I think a lot of people will say, at the very least, that's what they should be looking at. And maybe they are. Maybe they are. So, interesting developments in both cases. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.